Hello beautiful people, this video is about what actions result in improvements in project success. We've talked about measuring project success, and we have also talked about how to define the success criteria for a project. Now let's look at how we make your next project even better. Research shows that specific actions can boost project performance by up to 40%. Let's break them down. Hi, I'm Jennifer Kenny. I'm the best-selling author of The Innovation Mindset and 100% Capacity. My work focuses on helping teams not just deliver, but continuously improve and innovate. Today I'm going to talk to you about the exact actions to drive measurable gains. Because we're stuck in the old definition of requirements and we believe that our customers know what it is that they want, we tend to think of success criteria as a one and done kind of thing. I would suggest to you that if you think of success criteria, then the definition of success criteria with your customer as a one and done, then you're setting yourself up for failure. What we're seeing now with AI and with significant global changes is that the environments that we're working in are more and more diverse, more complex, more demanding of agility from us. And we're also being given tools, which would be AI, to help us actually be more agile. In the absence of paying attention to those tools and using those tools to help us be more agile and asking ourselves, how do we be more agile? We're setting ourselves up for failure. If we think about agility as a practice and agility as a skill that we want to build in to our project capacity and to every single member of our project team, then what we need to be able to do is create an environment where agility allows us to be able to execute more effectively together. One of the most effective ways to do that, I have found, is to help people understand the concept of having a customer who is going to have conditions of satisfaction, and you're going to be able to deliver to those conditions with them. And most importantly, you are going to co-invent and co-design those conditions of satisfaction with them. The reason why I say this is so important is historically our projects, particularly if you go back to waterfall days, historically our projects have always been about gathering requirements and delivering on those requirements. As we brought in agile software development practices, what we did was we looked to be able to build more agility into our software development process. We didn't necessarily build more agility into our co-invention process with our customers. One of the key things that I bring to the table with the project teams that I work with is the ability to be able to create that co-invention capacity as a driver of innovation, not just within the project, but also across the organization, so that the conversations that people are having with project leads and with project teams are ones where we are co-inventing success rather than we are lobbing stuff over the wall. Even in the most sophisticated organizations that I've worked for, people still lob stuff over the wall because we've been brought up in this mindset that is input, process, output. We take information, we process it in a certain way, and we expect to be able to deliver value on the back end of that. If instead we start engaging with each other as customers for delivering value and for producing impact together, we begin to have different kinds of conversations around what does success mean. If we also recognize that success and understanding success and building success is actually a practice that we need to build into every aspect of our project, then what we're doing is we're setting ourselves up for a lot more chances of delivering real value, real impact, and real success. Now, that doesn't mean that you simply, as a project manager, are the person who understands this and does a top-down implementation. That means that all the conversations that you're having and the engagements that you're having with the people on your project team have this understanding of how to think about success at a very granular, both a micro and a macro level, so that we're looking at success, understanding and listening for success as a practice that every single person on the team understands what that means and they understand how to go about that practice. What happens over time when you start instituting that is you create the ability within your people to be able to perceive when the project is going offline, when the project is not going to be successful, when the customers are not as satisfied as you thought they might be, when there is a lack of trust between you and your customer base. And by your customer base, I mean your internal customers for the project, and an understanding of how their work that you're going to support them in is going to impact the external customers. If we understand the context that we're working in and we have a clear initial definition of success criteria, knowing that that is something that is going to change and evolve and merge for the duration of the project, and we allocate resources and understanding to that, what we will do over time is we will align ourselves with the customer in a way that we are almost assured of delivering success. If you think about what success means in a project, many of us try and define success criteria at the beginning of a project, and then we put that into slides and we talk about it constantly. We hope by talking about it constantly we're going to be able to reinforce that that is a done deal and that our customers need to be satisfied with whatever it is that we deliver, so long as it meets those success criteria. What we're hiding away from by doing that is we're hiding away from the fact that we all know and we all understand is that our circumstances, our businesses, our environments, our teams, our world, and our world with AI is moving a lot faster than our ability to be able to define success criteria. Nobody's got a good enough vision into the future that they can define success criteria at the beginning of an 18-month project and be satisfied with those criteria being delivered 18 months later. If we can build the ability to be able to listen to our customers and co-invent with our customers and design with our customers into every single step of the project, then what we're doing is we're setting ourselves up for a much higher level of success. Lots of times what we do with projects is we believe that the initial listening work is done in phase 1 and our phase 2 is the development work, and we all rush to do the development work. But what we do is we rush to do the development work. Our customers are still left sitting over here and they're lobbing stuff over the wall to us as their circumstances and context change, and we're seeing those as changes in scope and redefinition of things. If instead we build our understanding of projects as being a process of execution that requires those ongoing conversations for co-invention and negotiation and definition and understanding of outcomes, that is an integral part of the project as much as software development is an integral part of the project. What I'm seeing now is as we leverage AI more and more effectively, AI is going to be able to do a lot of the software development work for us. And we are the ones who are going to be much more focused on a deep understanding of the software combined with a deep understanding of the impact to the business. And how do we bring those two together, and how do we manage the execution in a way that we are constantly focused on the value for the customer? If we strengthen our definition of success discipline throughout the project, what we're doing is we're integrating not just the skills and the capabilities, but also our structures for our projects in terms of how we break them up into milestones, how we define phases, how we understand feedback loops, how we leverage that feedback, how we understand how to be able to leapfrog some of our development efforts in order to be able to reduce cycle time in certain areas that gives us flexibility in others. So what we're looking to do is we're on a constant process innovation practice as we're delivering on our project. If we can help our people be able to be comfortable in that highly dynamic, complex environment, then what we're doing is we're setting ourselves up for a different level of engagement with our customer and significantly increasing our chances of project success. I've talked about feedback loops in a number of other videos, and intentional design of feedback loops I have found is something very, very valuable for projects. We tend to think about feedback as something onerous that might involve scope creep, that could be a customer who's not satisfied. What I work with project teams to do is to help them understand that feedback loops are an integral part of a complex adaptive system. And if we're building our project and program management and leadership and the projects themselves as understanding that they are complex adaptive systems, then we welcome feedback loops. We need to understand how to be able to leverage the feedback in a way that is manageable for us. I talked in a previous video about the value exchange between a performer in an organization and a customer in an organization. If your project team are the performer, which they are, and you have an internal customer or multiple internal customers, that value exchange needs to be constantly attended to. And understanding how to receive feedback and how to derive value from that feedback and how that value in turn improves the quality and the impact value of what you're delivering for your customers is absolutely essential to the project. So when you start thinking about your project, think about, how do I set myself up where we are getting small, incremental, constant feedback from our customers and from our stakeholders in a way that is manageable for us, in a way that we can understand how to be able to leverage that. And we're not just living in our own little bubble, that we're just doing development because we think we already understand all of the success criteria perfectly. Stakeholder engagement is talked about a lot in projects. And what I've seen with stakeholder engagement is that that's usually left to the comms people on a project and to the project lead. And the stakeholder engagement is such an enormous and powerful opportunity for everyone on your project to really begin to understand the business value that they are looking to deliver. And if we remove them from stakeholder engagement, what we're doing is we are boxing that into a space where we're misunderstanding what the real value is. The real value of stakeholder engagement is not those incredibly tedious and boring meetings where you would have 10 project people on one side and 10 stakeholders on the other, and you would talk conceptually about the project. I'd suggest to you that stakeholder engagement happens in the one-on-one conversations that happen every single day, that have to do with how the project is being delivered, what is considered to be valuable, how the individual user is going to engage with whatever it is that you're delivering, how they're measuring their baselines and their benchmarks, how they're actually thinking that they're going to be able to apply what you're delivering as valuable for them. If we look to understand that, and we look to understand the bigger context in which our customers individually and collectively are working in, we're going to position ourselves in a very different place when it comes to stakeholder engagement. So I'd move away from the idea of stakeholder engagement, because we've now made it more about telling people what it is we're going to do and telling people our progress than we have made it about deep understanding, deep listening, and deep appreciation of the value of feedback loops from our customers. Those feedback loops have the potential to happen in every single project, at every single moment of every single day. And if we leverage that, we put ourselves in a position to be able to deeply enhance the success probability of our project. Now, that doesn't mean that that's run by a half a dozen people who are having to run all over the project trying to understand that. That feedback needs to be something that we build as a practice within our teams, and every member of the project team is part of understanding and engaging in that constant cycle of feedback. One of the other specific actions that you can do is to invest in skills and tools. That's a really obvious one. But the question is, what skills and what tools? So as you start thinking about the skills, and I've mentioned them earlier in this video, the skills of being able to listen, the skills of being able to negotiate, the skills of being able to co-invent, and the skills of being able to make real commitments and understand when those commitments are not being delivered to the satisfaction of yourself or your customer is something that I think needs to exist at every single level of the project. If we start understanding what I refer to as the execution layer, we'll start understanding the enormous value of bringing all of those skills to bear on every single person who works in the project. Now, obviously, they're going to apply them at different levels and different capacities and different capabilities, but those become an integral part of the conversation. I asked a client once what was the real value of the work that my team did with them. And what she said was, we built a shared language of what project success looks like. So as you start thinking of project success, don't think of it necessarily in terms of, can I understand the requirements? Can I define the criteria? Can I deliver the software? Can I lob it over the wall to the customer? Think of it much more in terms of, how do I build a shared language of value with my customer, a shared language and a shared understanding amongst my project team and their customers? And how do we begin to use that as a vehicle for being constantly engaged with our customers at the same time as we are looking to deliver enormous value for them? I think we're going to start seeing, I know we're going to start seeing some incredible tools. We are already seeing them coming out with AI. As you start looking at tools for your project, and lots of project teams are tooled up to the hilt, but as you start looking at what tools are valuable and what tools you want to discard and want to bring on, really encourage you to start looking at tools that will actually allow you to be able to understand the network of conversations and the network of commitments that are happening inside your project and outside your project to your customers. Building that co-invention capability and that listening capability and that contextual understanding is so important for the success of any highly complex adaptive project, that if you can have tools that allow you any level of visibility into that, you're going to be ahead of the game in terms of increasing your chances of project success. If you found this thinking useful, I have a lot more in other videos. I've done a video on how do you measure the success of a project. Have a look at that. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have questions about how to begin to apply some of this thinking. Let me know in the comments below, and I wish you the very best of luck and success with your project. Take care.